I'm Bella Lexi, and I'm here for the Anthony Rogers Show, and we are about to walk into Chicago Exotica.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Sean from Smile Empty Soul here in beautiful St. Louis, Missouri at Firebrand Recording, which is a wonderful studio here, tracking our new record, Swan Song, which will start to be released one song at a time here in probably about June, and then the whole thing will come out at the end of the year. So keep your ears peeled for it and check it out when it comes out.
So I'm Dennis with the Anthony Rogers Show podcast. My question for you is, what would you do if you became president to help the working class?
Well, I think the principal thing right now is housing. The price of housing is going up, and it's beyond the reach of most American families.
Along with oil and gas and food.
Inflation is hurting everybody. And inflation is more complex. I can't say that I'm going to stop inflation overnight. What I can say is that I'm going to stop the long-term cause of inflation. I'm going to unravel a war machine. I'm going to reduce dramatically healthcare costs by ending the chronic disease.
Hey, it's your favorite comedian, Anthony Rogers, live in his tour bus, yeah. But also, you need to get a beard like this. People have been talking. They said your shit looks whack. It looks weird. They can't tell your pronouns. You need to get a beard like this right now. And the only way to do that is by using luxurious bastard beard oil. Great smell, great function, great everything. Just get this. And there's directions on how to use it if you know how to read. But use the link in the description. Go to the website. Use promo code LEGENDARY. Get a discount. Do it. Thank you. Boom.
Hi, I'm Danny from 710 Glass. Come check my shop out. This is our Capone rig. 10 mil joint. Smoke out of his head.
I'm AJ over at 710. This is our Puffco selection. This is a Peak Pro. It is completely Bluetooth compatible to your phone. You can control it completely from your phone. Lights, how long you want your session duration, what you want it to burn at.
Hi, I'm Jay at 710. Come check out our large selection of American hand pipes and American-made glass.
Dude, we have everything.
Welcome back to your favorite podcast. My name is Anthony Rogers. You're watching the Anthony Rogers Show. Today we have somebody completely overqualified to be here. He's an author, a professor from one of the biggest schools in the nation, and we're going to talk about the Afterlife today. It is Dr. Matthew McKay. How you doing, brother?
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Good. Yeah, no, thanks, man. I appreciate you going backwards in your career and being here. What started your kind of like path to focusing on the afterlife and stuff like that? Was there like a moment that got you like into it more so?
Well, I think the thing that really got me started was many years ago reading Michael Newton's book, Journey of Souls.
Love that book.
It's an amazing book because Newton was a behavioral psychologist like I am, and a hypnotist. And he just stumbled on a way of helping people connect to the life between lives. And he developed a hypnotic process for going into your past life and then progressing in your past life to your death in that life, and then finally to the life between lives. And I just, and the thing that was so cool about him is that he did this with 7,000 people before he ever wrote the book. And so all of these people were totally naive. They didn't know what he knew. They didn't know what the afterlife looked like from his perspective. And almost all of them describe the same elements of the afterlife. And it's like, whoa, how does that happen? That, 7,000 people, totally naive, describe exactly the same experience. And that really, meant a lot to me. And I learned how to do that process, and I've done it with quite a few people over the years, and been a witness to their journey to the afterlife, and it's meant a lot to me. So that's how kind of it began. And then, it moved from there because, about 15 years ago, my son died. And, and I think I felt what anyone who loses a loved one feels, which is, does that soul still exist? And is he okay? And so it set me out on a journey to try to find him and talk to him and connect to him and somehow rekindle the love between us. And so that's what I did. And I started out with, basically, people who were doing mediums and things like that. And and then I went to consult Alan Botkin, who developed this thing called induced after-death communication, which is this amazing experience. It's based on EMDR, which is the treatment I use for trauma clients. It helps resolve trauma. We found a little variation by accident, and people could start actually hearing, feeling, and seeing their loved one on the other side. And I went to Botkin after Jordan died, and I had that experience. I heard Jordan talk to me. I heard him tell me the things I needed to know, which is, I love you, I'm with you, I'm with you all the time, and I'm in a good place. So that was a very big change for me. And the last step for me was consulting Alan and consulting Ralph Metzner, the late Ralph Metzner, who was a specialist in after-death communication and the afterlife and consciousness. And he taught me how to channel. And then finally, I could actually have conversations with Jordan and connect with him and learn, whatever he was going to teach me from the other side. So that's sort of the process of finding him after he died.
Super interesting. Yeah, I love that book. And I was wondering, like in a short description, my mom passed away about a month and a half ago, and all these podcasts I've been doing have been drawn towards afterlife, near-death experience, all this. It's kind of I'm just subconsciously doing that. And it's funny you said that too. The psychics have told me the same thing about my mom. They said the same thing, she's always around me and stuff. And it's weird that and there's so many consistencies. There's just so many weird consistencies just in from the journey of souls to other people's experiences and stuff. And were you hypnotized? To talk about, were you actually hypnotized, or do you do the hypnotizing, or both?
Well, both. I mean, I am a really good hypnotist, if I say so myself, and I have taken people into their past lives and then jumped from there into the life between lives, and I've done that quite a few times. And by the way, when you do that, you can also use that life between lives as a place to kind of connect to somebody you love. And so you can go to your soul group and then actually have conversations in the life between lives with someone who has left this planet and you want to connect to. So that was one thing. But then Ralph Metzner also hypnotized me and helped me have that experience. And it was fascinating because one of the past lives I went to was one in which Jordan was my wife as opposed to my son, and it's sort of mind-blowing. It's that wait a minute, this is my son, but also I had this entirely different relationship in a past life, and in that life he died early, and when I went to my death in that life, I was able to encounter him as my wife. And so one of the things that's really interesting about past lives is that we keep incarnating over and over and over again with our soul group, and we show up together in a particular time and place and situation and environment, but our relationship to those people in our soul group varies. In one life we come together and we'll have a relationship of lovers. In another life we're siblings. In another life we're antagonists and struggling with each other. And in another life, we may be, building something together and collaborators. So in our soul group, we keep, going back and incarnating to Earth together, but in different relationships. It's like a little repertory theater in which in each play we show up in these very different roles with each other.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and it sounded real when I listened to the audiobook because I'm dumb and I didn't read it, but I felt like it sounded real when I heard it. Like you almost felt like I felt like my soul agreeing with it almost. Is weird. Like whenever I first heard that, I was like, I listened to those studies and like some people like Dolores Cannon and stuff, and so some pretty well known people like that, and like I mean yourself as well. Like, I think it's like I definitely. The only memory I have, I've never been hypnotized, and that would be a good show to almost hypnotize some people live. That'd be kind of interesting. We should talk about that like off the live stream. But I think that I remember before I was born, I remember picking this life. Like I have like a distant memory that I don't think's a dream. That I remember picking this life, and I remember seeing like I remember picking from like 4 choices or so. I don't know the exact number, and I remember like the coming down here and being like. My brain or whatever terminology being like whitewashed and not having memory after. Yeah. And I remember that there'd be a big struggle. My mom was sick for a long time, like 4 years and stuff. She had ALS. It was disastrous. But I remember that being a big part of the struggle of my life and my tests and stuff. And I remember it being a test or something, but I don't remember much else. I mean, I don't remember previous lives. I don't remember any of that stuff, but I definitely remember like that, and I remember being like isolated for a long time. It seemed like a long time where I was like isolated forever as like a punishment or something. And they're like, all right, if you want to try this again, kind of energy, and like it was like this, I was like a white light, and it was a white light. Just I don't know, like it felt. It was like a whatever terminology. I don't know if it was a light, but it looked like it. That's how it appeared in human terms. It was. I definitely remember that, and I want to do the hypnotism thing at one point. And what else did you have several past lives too? Like what you found out with your hypnotism or being hypnotized?
Ralph helped me explore quite a few past lives. And another one, I was in the Middle Ages in a yeshiva with Jordan, and he was an old rabbi, and I was a young guy, young rabbi, and he was my mentor in that life. And actually in that life, after he died, I did engage in communicating with him as I do in this life. But I got in trouble in the yeshiva because they didn't like the kinds of things that I was learning from him, and I got ostracized and almost kicked out. So, I mean, that's a different life. In another life, he was an unrequited love. I was female in that life, and he was an unrequited love. So, yes, there have been quite a few lives, and I don't know all of them, but I know some of them. And I am aware that what you're describing, my experience with the people I've progressed into the life between lives, it's exactly right that they get to a point where after they've done a lot of their work in the life between lives, and they've doing whatever learning and reviewing and growing that they need to do there, they get to a point where they're ready to incarnate again, and they're just as what you described is what I understand, that they're offered a number of 3, 4 lives, and they get to see them, the likely things that are going to happen, how their body is going to react if their body has certain problems or flaws or illnesses, the people around them, what's going to happen there. And so we're shown kind of likely outcomes, and we choose one of those lives. And some of them are more difficult, some of them are perhaps less difficult, and we decide on the one that we're most drawn to. And just what you're describing is my understanding of what in fact happens. And and we come to this life having a pretty good idea of what we're going to face. For example, Jordan knew he was going to have a short life, and that he was here for a very specific role and a very specific lesson plan. But that's probably true for all of us. We come here, from what I understand, from what he tells me, all of us with a lesson plan that's specific and particular to us. And so our job is to learn. And we come here to this earth, we incarnate, and our whole reason for incarnating is to learn and grow and evolve and develop the soul. And so that's why we show up here. It's this very difficult place where a lot of our learning takes place in the context of really painful, challenging things. but our role here is to learn, and that's why we do this. And so we choose lives to offer us opportunities to learn.
What do you think the overall goal of this is? Like, I mean, like I imagine the hypnotism you can only really ask people that are on Earth. So, what I mean, what do you think the overall goal is? Like, what is there like a prize when we learn stuff, or like what do you? What do you think it is? Do you know what you, or what are your thoughts rather?
Well, I mean, I can say what Jordan has told me, which is that, all souls exist. All of us are individual pieces of consciousness, right? And,
Yes, sir.
we call ourselves souls, and all are collective consciousness, or God, or divine, whatever we want to call it, creates individual souls for a very important reason, that we go into the physical world and learn things that the divine all could not learn. And the purpose of our existence is to go into the world and learn. So it's sort of like we're bees that we leave the hive of the afterlife and we go into the world and we collect honey. But in this case, we collect knowledge, we collect experience, we grow, we evolve, and then we bring that all back to the hive, which is to God, all the divine. So everything we learn, we're bringing back, and it becomes part of the awareness and the knowledge of all. So that's our work. That's what he explains to me anyway. So it's a very sacred mission, and so we face a lot of pain, but there's a reason for that. Is that all of the things that are hard and the challenges and the struggles are teaching us things that are really important. For example, let me use this is kind of an example. God or all divine cannot understand what grief is. It's just not possible for God to understand grief. And to learn about grief, God has to create individual souls like us to go into the physical world and lose things that are important to us, and then experience grief. And only because we experience grief can God have any idea what it's like. And so loss and grief is just one example of the things that we learn. And then the other thing is we learn how to love in the face of grief and loss. How do you love someone who's gone, for example? How do you love someone who's hurt you or rejected you? That is hard work, and we learn how to do it. But we can only learn how to do it in a place with pain, and only learn how to do it in a place with impermanence, where we lose really important, vital things. And so, God, the divine, can't experience anything on that level. So we have to go and experience it, and then teach and bring all of our knowledge back to the afterworld.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And like, I just wonder how many lives we've lived. And I hear interesting things like we probably lived like every life on Earth or something, which is kind of interesting too. Like, we probably just, just been different people. And I think like, what I remember, like I said, like, I don't know, this could have been a dream. But it feels like a memory. It seemed like all time was happening at once. And then like, but like you can kind of just like look into like this weird ball that we're in or whatever terminology. And like everything was happening at one time. Like time was just all happening at once, it seemed like. But in this vessel, in this like body we're in, it seems like we can kind of like slow it down to a slow vibration or something. And that's what it seems like to me. And then like they just like whitewashed my brain when I came down. I remember this like translucent tunnel, like to just going down from I was above Earth somehow. I don't know where I was, but it was above, and I felt like I just went straight down, and like I just don't remember anything. I wish I could have that I wish I could have all those memories, because then I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm just like I feel like
that's beautiful. I mean, what you're describing, from what I understand anyway, is the process of amnesia that every soul experiences coming to Earth. So, when we leave the afterlife, we come to Earth. And the reason we have that amnesia, where we get kind of washed of all of our knowledge, all our past lives, all of the stuff we've learned as a soul, is so that we can take this life seriously. And because we wouldn't really, if we knew everything that happened to us and where we came from, so it was like we wouldn't take this life very seriously. It's like, okay, I know what's going to happen. I know where I'm heading. And for example, when somebody dies, you wouldn't grieve. It's like, oh yeah, they just gone back to the afterlife. It's all good. And so, the things that we experience here would be pale and almost irrelevant because we remember everything. So we have to forget everything to come here and learn these lessons, because we wouldn't take this life seriously if we knew exactly where we came from and why we come here. So I think what you described makes so much sense to me, because it's the process of selecting a life and then heading here into a fetus, and in that process losing everything you know, and of course we regain it when we die and head for the life between lives, or the landing place where we first go to adjust to not having a body.
Yeah, no, it felt it felt real. And I had all these memories after that book. I was like, because like I think that book, Journey of Souls, I think it helped me with my mom being sick more so, and I think like also, but I don't believe it's strictly a coping mechanism. I do think it's also real, and like it seemed like it, at least it felt real, and like to my senses, and like it was and I kind of felt that way. And like where it's been, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I miss my mom. I'm very sad. At times I'm very sad and it's crazy, whatever. And I'm just trying to be real, not act like I'm on phase. But I'm saying like, but a lot of the times I feel like she's free. She was not like, she wasn't living her last couple of years. She hated it. She'd tell me all the time. And I felt like she's free. And I believe in the soul. I mean, I'm a Christian as well, which is weird for a lot of Christians. I believe in reincarnation, but I do believe in God and all that, and I try the best to serve God as much as I can. And I think that my mom did too. And I think that like she died on Good Friday. You know, it was a weird. She died the same day as Jesus, bro. It was just a weird thing. And like, when someone has a sickness like ALS or something like that, you grieve the whole time they're sick. It's different than like, for me anyway. I mean, I'm not trying to say it for everybody. You grieve the first time you hear your mom has ALS. In my life, in my experience, like as soon as you hear that, you're just like, oh yeah, that's when it hits you. And then like it just gets worse every day. And then you're just like, I mean, just last time she did all this stuff. And I mean, and from what I understand, that's a lot of karmic points for how she went out. There's a lot of karmic points for like just having to be taken care of and all these things that she didn't want to deal with. She's so prideful and stuff. And then like, so me, I mean, other than missing her, it's not to me, I'm just like, she's free, dude. It's life is gonna happen to me. I feel like she's not imprisoned in her body anymore. And it's like, and that's how I feel. I mean, to be completely honest, that's how I feel. And it's a lot easier dealing with that than her memorial's tomorrow. And I pushed off a month because it was crazy in the beginning, obviously. But it was like the first month I was just in shock. So I couldn't even make any good decisions. But I had a dream before she passed that, and I don't know if this is real or a coping mechanism, but she was around me while I was doing a bunch of comedy shows and stuff. And she was like laying on the couch and she's like, well, and this, so I was like delusional to think that meant that she was getting better and would be able to go on Earth, you know, but I think that's kind of like prepping me to let me know there's souls, like kind of watching my Earth show or whatever this is. And like, I have like the normal co-hostess here. Her name's Nikki. She's kind of like a psychic as well. And we had a medium on a couple like days ago, and they all told me the same thing. All mediums are telling me the same thing. They're all telling me she's around me constantly. So she's probably not. She's probably neglecting the review, I guess, right now, or whatever. You know, it's just like I feel that same thing, and that's why I originally asked you what got you into the Afterlife. I think you almost have to experience something like this, a loss of love, to even be fascinated with it. You know what I mean? I think you almost have to. Like in my experience, I was interviewing rock stars before she passed out. You know what I mean? Or before she passed away, right? I said passed out. That's a Freudian slip, even. But passed away. I think like. I was interviewing rock stars and stuff, and then I go into this, and now I'm just obsessed with like the afterlife, near-death people, and like it's like I'm just obsessed with this story now. That like, not obsessed, but interested rather. I think more so.
I totally really get what you're saying. I mean, she was imprisoned in her body, and she's been liberated. She's been set free, and there's a part of you that knows that really well, and kind of almost rejoices maybe a little bit. And
I was happy for her, but sad for myself. Yes.
Yeah, you lost her. She's not present, at least physically, in your life, and yet, you know, she's set free. But I think part of the thing is, where was she set free, or in what way was she set free? And of course, you know, this is one of the things I think we struggle with. It's like, well, where is this person that we love? And, are they okay? Are they, and not only are they okay, but is that love still there between us? Are we still connected? And that's the thing that, Jordan has just said to me over and over and over again, is that death does not have any impact on our relationships. None. No, it has, and there's no dominion over our relationships. The love is still there. The love is just as powerful, just as real after death as when both people were walking the planet. And the way you can know that is you can feel the love very actively inside you. When you think of her, the love is right there. Yeah. And what Ralph Metzner taught me was all of the people that we love on the other side are just a thought away. As soon as we think of them, we open the channel. Now, we don't actually know that a lot of times. We think of them and we just feel sad, or we have a memory or so forth. But we don't realize that when we think of them, we can actually open the channel and actually communicate. We can actually open the door between, or pull the curtain back between the worlds, and we can actually talk and communicate to the loved one on the other side. And my belief and what Jordan has taught me is that your mom is just a thought away. She has been, yes, liberated from a body that couldn't support her anymore, and in this other place, she's able to communicate to you anytime you want. And so, for example, you could ask her a question, and she is able and can really answer those questions. And I've taught hundreds of people to do channel communication with their loved ones. And I work a lot with people who have grief and lost someone they love very deeply. And when they learn how to talk to that person and recreate the relationship with channeled or communication that's through mental processes, it makes all the difference. A lot of the grief begins to subside, and they can feel that person still loving them, still caring for them. They can ask questions. They can get advice. Your mom now has access, in my view, to all of her past lives. She can remember every life she's ever lived. She can remember all the things that she's ever learned in the spirit world. She's a deeply, deeply wise soul. And so if you can, if you want, connect and communicate to her. You can ask her questions. You can get advice. You can get guidance. But she can also tell you things about the afterlife if you're curious, and about the greater reality if you want to know more about that. So the person on the other side is this amazing source for support, care, guidance, and an image, a picture of what the world there is actually like.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you said some of the things you said on that, like just being around and stuff. And like I picked up her ashes, which is like a fear factor challenge. That was nuts. But I picked up her ashes, and like I when I had them in the truck and I was driving, I basically heard her making fun of how I drive, which she would have done. Like and it's like, and it's funny. It's like I think a lot of people think like these people's souls are just magically this like angelic thing afterwards or something. But my mom was just kind of a shit talking prankster. She's always like she was she would definitely have made fun of me driving, like when I was driving, like the way I missed a turn or something, and then like the same way she would have mocked me driving around with her in the passenger seat. She like mocked, and I heard it in my head when I missed the turn that she's like making fun of me driving, and it was just funny to me. And like and I see her in my dreams already. And I think I've always been able to communicate with people in my dreams after they pass. And like I've done that with my grandparents, I think too. And like I said, it could just be, it could be a lot of things, but I do think it's real. I do think that's real. But I feel like I've already talked to her, and like she's like, I'm around you all the time. I'm like, you have to stay around me. And she's like, I'll try. And it was this funny thing. It's like I'll try to stay around you, but it's like I think that soul thing, and knowing and understanding that we're not here forever and that we're eternal. I do think we're eternal, and I think that like our soul is, at least, and it makes you feel a lot better when you miss somebody too. It's like like all I'm left with is not being able to call her and see her now. I mean, which is crazy, but it's like, I mean, it's a blessing to even be here, man. You know what I mean? You can't just sit around. She'd be so mad if I was just sat all the time and didn't do and just neglected these podcasts I worked so hard for, and like just stopped doing whatever my dreams were. She was so proud of me on Earth, and like she was so happy I was doing my dreams and stuff. And like I just feel like I'm almost in a position to where I can't fail because of that. You know, it's like this weird thing. But I do feel like at the same time I have no one left to impress. Like it's like I feel like I was just always trying to impress my mom. And then now I'm just going through the motions. I'm not really. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like I feel like my only person the only crowd I ever cared about was my mom, I guess. And I didn't realize that until she passed. Like, which is weird.
Yeah. You know, one of the things you're saying really strikes me because, you know, when souls talk to us from the other side, when we actually hear from them, they usually talk the way they talked in life. They don't talk like angelic beings. They have their own style of communication. Jordan has his own style of communication. And like sometimes he just shows up and says, "Don't do that. That's stupid, Dad." You know, I mean, he's just like, okay, that's the way he would talk. And so his way of being with me very much is his style, his way of being in the world, his way of communicating. And I think that means something to me because as you're describing your mom, she's talking to you in her style.
Yeah, yeah.
Verifies that she's really there.
Yeah, because I don't feel that's a coping mechanism. I feel like I'm pretty logical and very upfront and authentic, to where I could figure out the difference, and it felt real. Because like she always made fun of how I drove. So she would have made fun of me for that. And then like I don't know, it was just a lot of weird things. Like I don't know, it's a lot of weird things after just make a lot of sense. Like it's like and I almost want to do that hypnosis. Like to be honest with you and be perfectly honest, I'm kind of afraid to be hypnotized. Just to be that susceptible, I guess, or whatever term, or that open, I guess, to people. But I think that I do want to do that at some point, just to find out about past lives and stuff. And like obviously, I mean, I definitely am interested in that at some point. I want to figure that out. I just don't know if I'm brave enough to do that yet. You know.
Well, you know, if you don't need hypnosis to talk to her.
Yeah.
And I think you're already talking to her. But you know, for anyone in your audience who wants to talk to some loved one on the other side, it's actually pretty simple. In just a couple of minutes, I can describe what I do to talk to Jordan. So basically, get yourself something for eye fixation, like a candle or something that you can just look at and kind of hold your attention. Have some physical object that connects you to your loved one. It's something that they gave you or something that they had. And it's just an object that you can have as a kind of a physical connection to them on the other side. And then it's a very simple little meditation that kind of opens the channel. And it basically involves just noticing your breath, bringing your attention down to your diaphragm, down to your breath. Just pay attention to your breath and be there, you know, down there with your breath. And every in-breath you say into yourself, every out-breath you say out. And you just pay attention to your breath. And when a thought arises, this is an important part. When a thought arises, notice the thought, but then bring your attention back to your breath. So that's it. You're just noticing your breath in and out. And when thoughts arise, bring it back to the breath. After a while, when you start to feel a quietness, like your mind is quieting, it's less energetic, less active, and you begin to feel kind of a receptivity, kind of a little bit of an openness. Think of your loved one. Think of your love for them. And then imagine a globe about 6 inches above your head, you know, of the color of the sun. And just visualize it there. Imagine that globe. And then imagine it elongating like a long tube all the way to the person you love. That's the channel. The channel is open. And then you have something that you can write on and write your first question. Just write down the question. And the act of writing is part of opening the channel. Just watching the words form on the page. Just watch them as they form. And then you wait for the telepathic communication for your loved one. And the first thing that enters your mind, the first word, write it down. And the next thing, write it down. Write it. Even if it doesn't make sense, write it down. Until you finally get to, you know, a sentence that finally kind of answers your question. And there may and wait till you have an answer. And when the person stops communicating to you, write down your next question, and so forth. And so it's really kind of simple. But the important thing is that you just listen to what shows up in your mind. Listen to the telepathic communication and write it down. And it can come in different ways. It can come as a download, just a big, huge amount of knowing. And they're not even words for it. You have to find the words for it. Sometimes it comes as just a huge pressure of words that just come pouring out. Sometimes it comes just as a few words. Sometimes it comes as pictures. So however the answer comes, just let it show up and then find the words to describe it. And the reason it's good to have a notebook is that now you have a record of this conversation with your loved one. And I have lots of conversations with Jordan over the years, hundreds and hundreds of them, and I have a record of them. And it's so wonderful to go back and read the things he says to me when I sometimes forget them. So I want to encourage your audience, if you want to be connected to a loved one, just follow those steps and you can do it.
Yeah, it's very similar to like meditation. Like I've had similar experiences, like trying to meditate. I think that's what it is clearing your mind so other things can communicate with you, or other whoever and whatever. That I definitely, yeah, no, that's smart. Yeah, no, I definitely I did that at one point by accident. Really, just trying to try meditation to see what it does, and I think that's very valid. I think for sure, and it's very true. Like, what kind of things have you learned, kind of like from like I guess like about the afterlife from like these processes and stuff like that? It's like I feel like you've done this a lot more than I feel like I'm only like a month into this now. Like it's like so what kind of things have you learned about the afterlife and stuff that
Yeah, well, that's the first thing that Jordan wanted to do is to convey to people what the afterlife is like. He had me write this book, The Luminous Landscape of the Afterlife, which he described the afterlife and also how to prepare for death. And so what he described it's really interesting because, and he described his own transition after death. And the first place we go is kind of what he calls a landing place. And in that place, we're trying to get used to not having a body. And so, in a body, we look straight ahead. We just focus on one thing. When we don't have a body, we are aware of things 360. We have complete awareness all the way around. And then we also have the experience of, when we move, we don't use muscles, we don't use our legs. We just have intention. I want to go from here to there. And the intention is what ultimately moves us from one place to another.
One second on that. You brought up something really interesting, and I don't want to lose this thought. Do you think we're doing that while we dream?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought it sounded familiar when you said that. Okay, sorry.
No, you're right. Because most of the time when we're dreaming, we don't actually experience ourselves walking. We just move because of out of intention. We're not in a body. And we see images and pictures of bodies, but we're not actually in it in the same way we're in our body in our waking life. And so so that's going on. We move by intention. We see 360, but we also communicate telepathically instead of with sound. So we're getting used to all of this stuff. And the other thing that's really kind of important about that immediate place in the where we land is that anything in your mind, any picture you have in your mind, you project it energetically so that you see it and it looks like it's right there in front of you. And so people can freak themselves out, and Jordan said, he started to see scary things and they're right in front of him. And then he tried to calm himself down and imagine a place where he felt safe, which was Yosemite. And he said, then now he can see Yosemite in front of him. And then he thinks of Godzilla for some crazy reason. Now he's got Godzilla stomping through Yosemite, and all of this is right in front of him. And the thing is that what the images in our mind end up energetically right in front of us, and they can totally freak us out because they look absolutely real. So that's another thing that we have to learn how to cope with initially. So we get into this landing place, and the other thing that happens is that oftentimes in our life we have a lot of unresolved emotions and a lot of pain that we go through, and so we end up in the landing place with some of these feelings, anger, sadness, scared, feeling shame, all kinds of stuff. And you really can't get into the afterlife, into the spirit world with these intense emotions. It doesn't work. So we have to sometimes go to healing places where we heal, and we're souls who specialize in healing and working with our energy, help us recover from some of the pain and the struggle and the emotions that we have lived with. Then at that point, when we are recovered enough, we can then enter the afterlife, the spirit world. And the very first stop there is the life review. So I could tell you more about that if you're interested. But I mean, so there's a whole series of things we go through once we enter the afterlife that are part of our learning process, and part of also making sense of the life that we just lived.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Do you think there's punishment about the life review, or you think it's just like, what are your thoughts on that?
According to Jordan, and I don't know if this fits with your ideas or not, there is no punishment in the afterlife. There's no hell. There's no judgment. The life review, though, can be very painful. It's like, from what he tells me, the life review is you look at every real experience and choice that you made in your life, and you experience it not only as you experienced it, but as the other person experienced it, who that choice impacted. And not only do you experience it as they experience it, but you experience it as they have experienced it over time. So let's say you slap your kid. And so you experience that as your anger and whatever induces you to slap your kid. But you also then experience in the life review what that slap felt like and meant to your kid. And not only at that moment, but over time, how that slap impacted that kid and how they developed and grew and understood and saw themselves and their feelings over many years of time. So the life review is a very powerful experience, but it's not judgment. It's just facing the truth of things and learning about how each choice we make impacts others, not only at the moment, but over the course of many years and over a long time. So that life review is this big, important piece early in our going back, in our return to the spirit world. The life review is one of the very first things that we do. It's arduous, it's hard, it's not punishment, but it is a learning process that can be very, very meaningful and sometimes painful.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. It's like, I'm not looking forward to the life review, bro. I was not a good person when I was young, man. I'm trying to be now, but it's like, oh God, I'm not looking forward to that at all, man. That sounds awful.
I know. There's a lot of stuff I've done. I don't relish looking at how it impacted the people around me. I totally agree, and I get what you're saying. The next thing after the life review is we join our soul group, and we return to the group that it's like our little family in the afterlife and the spirit world. And soul groups are like between, I don't know, George is like 8 and 20.
Repeat that what you said. I couldn't hear the last thing you said. Repeat that if you could.
Soul groups are like a little family that we have in the afterlife, and they usually are like between 8 or 20 souls. And there's, you can think of it like, a neighborhood. So the soul group lives in a house, and then the next house over has another very close and related soul group. And then across the street, there's a fairly close and related soul group. And so, in our soul group is the one that we incarnate with over and over and over again to many lives. But also that may include other souls from nearby groups. So we have these related groups, and we know and care for those souls. We feel very close to them. But again, the souls that are further and further and further away, emotionally, geographically, psychologically, we may not know at all. But we have a community in the afterlife, all connected with love, very deep, deep love. And we're all there learning and growing together. And so when we return to the soul group, it's like this joyous reunion. Now, there's one other thing that's sort of interesting, and I don't know how you would feel about it, but what Jordan says to me is that part of our soul energy always stays in the afterlife. Part of our soul energy is there always,
That makes a lot of sense.
And then part of it breaks off when we incarnate and comes and enters a body and lives a life. And it goes through this forgetting process that we've talked about. But the part that's in the afterlife retains all of the knowledge, all of the memories, all of the past lives, all the things we've learned is always there. And so we're always there together with our soul group, but we also, some of our energy goes into another body and incarnates again. And Jordan is already incarnated into he's a girl who's about 11, 12 years old. And he has lots of things to say about that life. But the part of his soul energy that always is in the afterlife, I can always communicate to that. And that's true for all of us. So our loved ones may incarnate and may be in other bodies and other lives, but part of their energy is always in the afterlife, and we can communicate to them. But also part of our own energy is in the afterlife, and we can actually connect and communicate to our higher self, our soul energy that is always there and has knowledge and wisdom that we don't carry here into this life.
It makes a lot of sense. And I don't know much about this soul group aspect. I mean, I understand the concept, but I feel like I don't know my personal soul group as much. I haven't focused on that as much. And as I remember, like I said, the memory and just like what I read and stuff, a lot of it seems relatable. The soul group seems the least relatable to me for some reason, and I'm not sure why. Maybe that's the part I don't remember as much. But you know what I mean? Where I don't understand that personally as much as I do the other things, which is weird.
Well, have you had somebody that I'm willing to bet that you've had people that you met and you just felt like you knew them from the moment you met them?
My wife.
You just knew them. You had a connection to them. You had a sense of them, and there was a depth in the relationship that didn't make any sense given how you just knew them for a few minutes or a few hours. Now that's an example of someone who usually is in a soul group.
Fair. Okay. Yeah, I've had that before with my wife was like that. I just met her and never stopped hanging out with her. It was really weird how that happened. And then certain friends were like that too, I guess. So yeah, I could. Okay, I guess I have had similar experiences like that. I just didn't know how to relate it contextually. Okay, that makes more sense. Because my wife was like that. I just ended up hanging out with her one day, and all of a sudden it's been 8 years, or whatever. Time flies after you find your love. I feel it seemed, or maybe it was the age I was at. I don't know, but time moved really slow for 28 years. I felt and then I met my wife, and then now it's a blink and I'm almost 40, and then it's just it's weird how that works, and I don't know if that's something to do with being in love and happy, or just how time works in the human vessel. Yeah.
Well, it might have something to do with being happy, but when people the people in our soul group, we've had lots of different relationships with them. Like my wife in this life was my mother in another life, and so, and like I told you about Jordan, my son in this life was a wife in another life. So it's not unusual for someone in our soul group that we're connected to in a particular way now to have had a very different role. And, for example, my father in this life was my brother in another past life. And so these roles are we keep shifting back and forth and learning a lot by changing the roles that we have to each other. But there's a sense of recognition, a sense of awareness, and that this person is familiar, that I think often is the case, and that is kind of a clue that they're probably part of your soul group.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do have memories like that now. I do certain friends, and then my wife especially. And I always think that I was always one of the soul group things that didn't make point. I mean, it made sense and I believed it. I just didn't. It wasn't relatable, I guess, to me until you kind of caveman that for me. You made it easy to understand. I think that's that's interesting. Very fascinating stuff, and I think it it's weird because it feels real. It just feels, my soul almost recognizes it as real when it's being talked about. I kind of have that filter, that truth filter. I kind of telling people BSing or don't believe what they're saying or whatever terminology. But it sounded real when I first when I listened to that audiobook, that Journey of Souls thing, that book. It sounded real immediately, and I immediately devoured. What is it, 2 books or something? I immediately devoured.
Yeah, there's his second book, Destiny of Souls. Yeah, I had the same experience. It felt,
That's
oh
funny.
my God, there's some deep truth here that it just felt like it was opening a door to see something I couldn't see before.
Yeah, it was so weird. It just seemed real immediately. And there's probably some guardian angel stuff like throwing me that book so I could handle all this stuff. And like, I mean, to be honest, it's probably I'm very well protected. I feel like, and just like and then yeah, no, I think this life was very easy for me, but I don't think every one of them was. I think the technology, I mean, before it becomes a fascist kind of thing, like before it kills us all, it was pretty easy, you know. And my lineage kind of like just wrote it out, you know, from like 5th grade to about now, with how easy the internet made everything. And I feel like most lives probably wouldn't be this easy without the technology. I look at most time in history, like children are working, and like, I mean, it's like, you're working from like 5 years old, like, oh, go do stuff, go farm, go work in the factory, go do whatever. And like this, I was to be here now in America at this time frame. I mean, maybe not this time frame, but up until about the 2010 maybe, was pretty chill, and it's a luxury to be here. You know, it's like I feel that mostly, no matter how crazy. I mean, because like, how do I say this? To reduce it. I think terrible and amazing things are happening simultaneously all the time. So it's like it's what you focus on. It's like I could be like, oh man, my mom's gone, or I could be like, okay, just keep going, keep like focus on good stuff. And I can sit around and be sad forever if I want to be. I don't want to be. I don't want to be sad all the time. It's a waste of my time. And I just want to. I mean, grieve them, respect the dead and stuff. But outside of that, it's like I'm just trying to have fun, man. I'm just trying to have a good life. I'm trying to just do good stuff. And like, my mom would be so pissed if I just sat around depressed all the time, like over this. She'd feel guilty, and she would just like, I just know how she is, man. She wouldn't want me sitting around being some like sad bum about it all. And I doubt your son would either. How old was your son when he passed? That's not too crazy, guys.
No, it's 23.
23. Wow, that's way too young. I couldn't imagine. That's a different kind of pain. Like parents losing their son or their kid is probably a different kind, but very up there with parents losing your parents. It's just like, because my mom was 57, bro. So that was like way before she should have passed.
Yeah.
And same with 23. That's insane. But I mean, I say should have, but there's a plan. There's a plan. We just don't see it right now. But it's like that's just, to me, I thought I had forever, you know. And I think you probably did with your son too. You're like, okay, my kid's gonna outlive me at least. I mean, that's what everybody thinks probably. You know, it's like.
Yeah. Well, and what Jordan says is that everything that happens to us, every loss, every struggle, everything that shows up, it happens. It's an opportunity to learn. Basically, it's an opportunity. What are we going to learn from that experience? And because that's what we're here for. That's our purpose. Coming to this planet is to learn and grow and evolve, and to learn how to love. And so, I guess what I'm thinking about as you're talking about your mom is that, you know, yeah, it's a huge blow. It's a huge blow. As for me, losing Jordan. But every one of these losses is also an opportunity to learn. In what way can we grow or learn or evolve as a soul from that experience? And I could feel and tell it you're doing that. And
it changed me completely. It changed me. Sorry to interrupt, but it changed me completely. I'm a different person than I was March 29th. 8 p.m. March 29th, 9 p.m. March 29th, different person. It's like when I heard that news, I became the oldest member on my side of the family. It was almost a weird rite of passage. It was like this weird, like I mean, in the silver lining aspects of it, obviously it was a terrible nightmare, in the realism of like pain and stuff. But it was like, I changed a lot. I felt it, and I don't know how to describe it. I was focused on the wrong things. I just cared about making money, and I just cared about like culture and fame and stuff like that. And I still cared to a degree about that stuff, you know. But I'm just saying, like, I was so self-centered and self-focused, and like just like I was just like I don't know. It was like a delusion I had when my mom was sick to focus on business. And then like as soon as she passed, I was no longer worried about her, which is weird. That just went away. I was worried about it for 4 years, bro. Like no matter what I did, if I did a show, I was doing shows in like Hawaii and like Oregon and like just everywhere, Kentucky. I mean, I was doing shows everywhere. I'd be blowing her phone up. Like I'd be like, "Are you okay? Is everybody around you okay? Is everybody taking care of you? Are you being well fed? Are they making sure you get water? You know, I was like the whole time like, are you getting enough water?" It was like, so I was just like always worried about her. And now I'm just like, I'm not worried about her. I'm worried about my sister, how she's taking it. And I'm worried about like how other people are taking it more so than even myself. And I'm worried about like leading by an example of like not just ruining my life or something, not like just getting drunk every day or whatever people do, and just trying to he was like, I know people pay attention. I'm the oldest in my side of the family now, my immediate family. But it's like, so I mean, it definitely changes you. It definitely changes you a lot. And like, it was like I went from being a child at 37 to a man at 37 in a weird way. It was just like, I was a perpetual teenager. I was a perpetual teenager until it happened. And I probably am in a lot of ways still, but I have like a backwards hat at 40, I still am in a lot of ways, but.
Well, everything you're saying makes so much sense to me. I mean, because I think that every significant struggle or painful thing that happens to us, particularly loss of somebody we love deeply, has the potential to teach us things. But in this sense, it has the potential to illuminate or show us important spiritual values that maybe were hidden before. And that's what I think I'm hearing you saying, is that there were spiritual values that were sort of in you, but they suddenly were, illuminated and became really powerful, and they have the values maybe more connected to love than maybe accomplishment or money or whatever. So it felt like your values got clarified.
I lost all interest in accomplishments. I don't care about. That's all I cared about before. All I cared about was like I could tell you a list of things I thought mattered, but I mean, I ran for like Congress. I was like a nominee for a main guy. I did like so many states and like touring and stuff. I was in like Netflix movies, all this stuff. I cared so much about that. I cared so much about that in like my earthly like thing. As soon as that's gone, I lost the person I was impressing. I literally was just like. My mom was big into radio. That's why I'm doing a podcast probably at this point. My mom was a very big radio fan and stuff. She was very into music. I interviewed a lot of rock stars. I mean, a rock star tattooed her like her signature on my arm, even like. So it's like, I mean, yeah. So it's like, I mean, I was so all that disappeared, and I almost became myself. Like, if that makes any sense. I was so just worried about what my mom thought about everything. I'm like, does my mom think I'm cool? Is my mom happy about my life? It's like, and I didn't know that. Surface level, I knew that subconsciously, I guess, and it all made sense after. It didn't. If you told me that, if I was time traveling and I could watch this right now at that time, I would deny everything I'm saying. I'd be like, that's not true. But then, like, I mean, I'd be like, there's no way I care what my mom thinks. Like, I mean, it felt like that, and then all of a sudden, I mean, in a certain regard, you knew, but I mean, not like it was a weird thing, and I don't even know. I just feel like I'm just going through the motions of an easy life I built for myself, but it's like. It just got deeper, it just got a lot deeper with all these things, and like I stopped caring as much about the surface level things. And I'm not that surface level anyway. Like we were talking before the show, like you were a guy living in a bus or a van, and I live in a bus, and like we have very similar things in that. Like minimalist, you have to be a certain kind of minimalist to pull that lifestyle off, And I think I always, So I've always been kind of a minimalist, but it's like it made me even more like that, And it's like this little vibration illusion we're in,
Yeah. So all the painful things that we face, especially the worst pain of losing someone we love deeply, are all going to teach us things. And that's why we're here, Jordan says. We come to a physical world in which this pain is possible. There's no pain in the afterlife. There's no pain in the spirit world. And the things that pain can teach us are not there. And there are things that we can't learn there. And we can only come to a physical place, to a planet where pain is possible and struggle is possible for us to learn those things, the things that you're learning, the things that I've learned from my loss of Jordan. So so loss is not, how would I say this? It's tragic, it's painful. But it's not a spiritual catastrophe. It's a spiritual opportunity.
Yeah, you get like that. Sorry, go ahead. I get hyped up. Sorry. No, I agree. I agree with all saying. I think like I think life's like that, and like there's a lot of silver lining in it. There's a lot of, you have to look at that. You'll go insane. I'll literally go insane if I don't focus on the good. And it's weird. I was so elevated when it happened that like I was able to even handle it. Because I was like, it was so weird. The week before, I was in such a great mood. I was just killing it, man. I got a new office space. I was like, I was like, oh, I'm downtown doing all these things I want to do. And then like, you know what I mean? And then like, it's weird, but I feel like something around me elevated me enough to take the blow, because like to where like I was so high up here that like it didn't hit me rock bottom. It was like, it did this. Like I went to like medium rather than like just super depressed about it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, but I'm obviously obsessed with it. I'm interviewing all these authors about the afterlife now, and like, and just different people, mediums and stuff. And so I mean, it definitely affected me, because I mean,
and I want to encourage you, to talk to your mom. Whether you use the channeling method I use, or just want to tell her things.
Constantly, I do
all of your audience, I would encourage anyone, if you love someone, you can talk to them, you can connect with them, and not only just tell them things, but you can ask questions and get and hear their response, and you can feel connected, and you can feel that love that always was there, and that we sometimes think has been lost when someone dies, but it's there anyway. And if you want to talk to them, they're there. They can hear you. They can answer. And just to kind of keep that in mind for anyone who's
great point.
Lost someone.
No, great point. I think we should end on that really positive, super great point. You throw out where people can get your books and stuff, and your current book and stuff. That way, you want to throw out some like where can people find your work and stuff? They should definitely get it.
Yeah. So the current book is Lessons from the Afterlife. Basically, why are we here? What is this place? And how does it connect to the afterlife? So that's the one that's out now. And then if someone's interested in what the afterlife really looks like, Luminous Landscape of the Afterlife. It really describes what it looks like, and also how to prepare for death and transition.
Awesome. Well, check out Matt's books. Read them, and you have audiobooks for a dumb person like myself.
Yeah, they're all on audio.
Okay. I just like listening to that stuff while I'm doing stuff, man. If I'm at the gym or something like that, I can just like listen to a book instead of music and stuff and learn stuff. I'll probably get your audiobook then soon, but at least the one the lessons from the afterlife. I'll probably grab that one to check it out on audiobook. Well, thank you for spending your Thursday night. I know you're probably busy. Appreciate you coming here, man. And like, I'm sure you got class tomorrow.
I do, but it's all good, Anthony. Thanks so much for. I really enjoyed meeting you.
And pleasure. Be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, be in touch, and thank you all for watching this. I know. In the East Coast, it's 10:30 p.m. So you're watching this live. If you're watching this live right now, you were spending your Thursday night doing this. I really appreciate you. If you listen to this later, I appreciate you slightly less. But I'm just joking. Thank you all for watching. It would be delusional if we didn't have people watching this. It would be delusional if we didn't have authors on here. It would be delusional.ads. So I appreciate everybody that came together for this. And have a good night. Bye. Bye.